podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PNR.
Blueberry.
This podcast is a member of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry. No E's. That's Blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Blueberry.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
The Big G. Tokyo Town. StompDown.
It's the Big G Tokyo Town StompDown, presented by Subject Cinema and Kaiju Corner, and we are getting deep into Godzilla movies all month long to celebrate Legendary's Godzilla King of the Monsters coming out on May 31st, and I'm so excited! I'm Kim Brown.
I'm TC Kirkham. It's May 4th, 2019.
Sorry,
my ears are bleeding now.
Sorry, got a little screechy there. Sorry, I'm excited.
And we are up to the fourth film in the Godzilla oeuvre. In America, it was called Godzilla Vs The Thing. Why did they do that?
Because they wanted to...
I mean, there was already... I would have thought it would make people think of the thing from another world.
Well... The
Another
reason they did that was because they were trying to have this air of mystery about Godzilla's opponent. If you see one of the posters for this film, actually, in America, they have a drawing of allegedly Godzilla. Doesn't look anything like Godzilla, but whatever. That's just me being picky. And we see him fighting something where it's got a tentacle around his neck, but the rest of it's all a big white square with a question mark. And it's like, what is Godzilla fighting? You know, come see Godzilla versus the Thing. So anybody who thought they were going to show up and see some kind of hentai or something like that, kaiju hentai, we don't need that. Family show, I know.
In Japan, it was called Mothra Vs Godzilla.
Took all the mystery right out of it.
And was the first of the official big monster crossovers.
Yes.
Mothra had debuted in 1960 in her own movie.
Yes.
And this was the first crossover between the two.
Mothra, which is an amazing character and one of my favorites. Next to Godzilla, Mothra has been one of my favorite kaijus out there, and Gamera. I know people are going to yell at me, but I like Gamera.
But you know something?
What?
Can you imagine what it must be like working with Mothra on the set?
How'd you mean?
I mean, you're going to need a new wardrobe every 2 hours because she's going to eat through it all.
Oh.
I mean, you could have, like, buckets, you could have dump trucks full of mothballs and not get anywhere with it.
Well, worse than that, think about it when they have to go lights and Mothra's like, ooh, shiny. Ah, no! Mothra...
Okay, that's all the Mothra jokes.
That's all the jokes we're going to do. Mothra had made her debut, as we mentioned, in her own film, where the whole thing of the film was that Mothra is this kaiju that is venerated as a goddess on this island. And
is Mothra the only female kaiju in the Godzilla Rogues Gallery?
That's not a nice way to
put it. Well, no, but I don't know how else to put it. She
was the first.
Until Biolante came along, I don't think there was any.
You might be right.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
We're going to have to look into that. I've never thought about that.
Godzilla versus Biolante will be later on in the month.
Yeah.
If you
That's
haven't
part of
seen it,
the third series, right, or the second?
Third, I think.
Third, okay.
If you haven't seen it yet, holy crap, that movie's weird. It's awesome, but it is weird as hell.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I've read about it. It's weird. I don't need to see it.
So Mothra lives on her island with all of the people that live on the island, and she has these two little. They're referred to as fairies, that they speak on her behalf, I guess. They, translate for her or whatever.
Do they communicate with telepathy, or do they just understand her language?
I think it's a little of both.
Okay.
I'm not entirely certain, but they're these two little, and when I mean little, I mean little.
They're like Barbie doll size.
They're like Barbie doll size, yeah. And they're these two little women, and they speak in unison, and they're usually referred to as the Cosmos. And they'd better be in King of the Monsters, or I'm going to be mad.
Wikipedia says they were originally called the Shobijin.
Shobijin.
And the fans, of course, also refer to them by the Peanuts, which are the two girls, the duo singing group that played them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The original film...
You mean it wasn't Pink Lady?
Shut up.
Too early. Okay.
Shut up.
Sorry. Okay.
The original film, they wind up getting captured by this greedy dude that wants to show them off as being, oh wow, look at these little teeny girls that sing and all this stuff like that. Mothra, needless to say, gets pissed, leaves her island in a caterpillar form, becomes Mothra, wrecks a whole bunch of stuff to get her little girls back. And she goes back to her island, and that's that. This film, Mothra vs. Godzilla, there's this enormous storm, and this giant egg washes ashore on one of the islands of Japan. And a greedy entrepreneur decides he's going to own the egg. He files some kind of, patent or something that he owns the egg, and he wants to build. Now I'm like, what? He wants to build a park around this egg. They want to put it in this big, dome greenhousey thing, and have people pay to come look at the egg because they hadn't invented Pokemon yet. Needless to say, as it turns out, surprise, the egg is Mothra's egg. Mothra wants her egg back. Mm-hmm. Mothra's not happy. And when Mothra's not happy, ain't nobody happy. We find this out because the Cosmos, I'm calling them the Cosmos because I just like it. Mm-hmm. They show up. They plead their case to a newspaper reporter and his plucky girl assistant photographer person and this professor.
You mean the one that he treats like dirt?
The one that he treats like dirt, yeah. They're all like, please return our egg to us. It's Mothra's egg and all this stuff like that. And now, that would be an interesting story enough on its own because I'm like, good luck trying to steal that thing. We're not going to be pulling any Ocean's 11 trying to get this egg out of here because this egg is frickin' enormous. And the greedy, entrepreneur guy is all like, no, because he's in bed with some shadowy mafia people or something that financed him all the money to do this and they're criminals and they're bad and blah, blah, blah. Now, into all this, not all that far from where the egg is, serendipitously, all of a sudden there's this big earthquake and everything shakes and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden there's this very familiar ridge coming up out of the ground and it's Godzilla, who has been taking an actual dirt nap. Well, what else would you call it? Come on! I'm sorry. That was a really awful, awful thing to say. Bad Kim, no cookie. But it's true! He's just all of a sudden it's pop! Oh, I'm awake. I'm here. And, we get the usual Godzilla.
Actually, since he's on a beach, technically it would be a sand nap.
I guess.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. He's not on... Is he on the... No, he's not on the beach, because when he shakes all the dirt off himself, it's dirt. It's not sand.
Okay, all right.
It's far enough away from the beach
all right.
that it's not on the beach.
All right.
And Godzilla, shakes the dirt off and is like, well, time to start wrecking stuff, and, proceeds to cause a whole bunch of carnage. And so the people of Japan naturally panic, and the newspaper guy and the newspaper gal and the doctor try to convince the Cosmos to be like, could you please do us a big favor and call Mothra? That would be great. And their whole thing is, well, we don't want to do that because you haven't helped us and all this stuff like that. And their whole thing is, well, we tried, and they're like, okay. And they wind up calling to Mothra, and Mothra shows up. Now the problem is that, Mothra shows up, yay, but the problem with that is Mothra is dying. Mothra has reached the end of her life. And she's
Guess whose egg that is?
Yeah. two guesses who the egg belongs to, and the first guess doesn't count. Mothra, full of motherly love, to protect her egg, because Godzilla sees the egg, and he's all kind of like, omelet. And he makes his way toward the egg like, he's gonna... He doesn't really know what he's going to do to it, but you get a feeling it's not going to be nice. And Mothra shows up, and she's all like, "Get away from her, you bitch!" And we get this big fight. I know, yes, I just
Mothra as Ripley. That's just terrifying.
That would have made a hella shorter movie, though.
Oh my god!
She would have just ate the alien, and that would have been that. But we get this big fight between Godzilla and Mothra, and it's very sad because Mothra actually dies. I mean, she puts up a good fight. And it's not that Godzilla kills her. I mean, he does.
No, she's dying of old age.
Yeah, she's dying of old age, and she puts up a valiant fight, including raining poison dust on Godzilla, which from her scales,
I guess.
the wing scales or whatever. I don't know how that works. It looks a lot better in the later movies because it's all sparkly and stuff.
Yeah.
But she's old. She's reached the end of her life. And she lands on this, the top of this mountain, not a mountain, more of a plateau kind of a thing. And she lands on that, and she goes really still, and you realize, oh gosh, she's dead, how sad. Oh wait, Godzilla's still running amok. Oh, this is bad. The thing is, through all of this insanity, somehow this egg has not been destroyed, and the egg actually hatches. Ba-doom, miracle of life. Now the thing is, as it turns out, the egg has 2 Mothra lava in it. So they come out, and they're cute. Kind of.
I suppose. They're
way
cuter than what they later kind of modeled after when they did Shin Godzilla a couple of years ago.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That lungfish thing was hideous.
Oh, boy.
Anyway.
So the little baby Mothras, no, that sounds terrible. The larva Mothras, that sounds worse. The caterpillar, let's go with caterpillar. I know they're not caterpillars.
They're Mothra larva.
Oh man, that sounds so nasty. But they somehow they come out of the egg, and they instinctually know that Godzilla is an enemy because they start attacking it. I mean, they're little. I mean, they're just born, so they're not really terribly good at attacking him. But they do bite him a couple of times. There's a scene where one of them has kind of snuck up behind Godzilla as much as something that's about the size of 5 city buses end to end can sneak up on anything.
Yeah.
And they do have mouths. They have, what do they call those? Mandibles?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm going for? And one of them grabs Godzilla's tail by the tip of the tail. And if you've ever pinched yourself with a really small, those small pinches hurt worse than big pinches.
They do.
And Godzilla actually shrieks, which I was like, please don't make that sound again. That was disturbing. And the big fight culminates in the 2 larvae, double teaming Godzilla by shooting him with, these sprays of silk, because they are larvae and they do eventually spin silk to make the cocoon that they will do someday, and they will do the whole split out of the cocoon and be their own Mothras.
Right.
I still think the silk's coming out of the wrong end, but we won't go into that.
I agree with you on that. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I did. And they wind up encasing more than half of Godzilla. We'll go with more than half of him in silk, and he falls off of a mountain and falls into the water, and we don't see him again.
Right.
And they go into the water, and they start going back to the island. They start swimming back to the island, and the cosmos go with them, and that's the end of the film.
Right. It is interesting to note that there was some footage shot, especially for the American version, including American military assisting the Japanese. Also, this film marks the first major role in the Godzilla series for Kenji Sahara. He had done a couple of other films. He had a small appearance in Godzilla King of the Monsters. Here he is the rotund, rather obnoxious businessman who grabs the egg, being funded by another guy.
Yeah.
He would later show up in damn near every Godzilla or Mothra movie throughout the years, from 1961's Godzilla, where he had a smaller part, to bigger parts in other Godzilla films, including here. And I mean, he continued to appear right up through 2004's Godzilla Final Wars.
Mm-hmm.
He is still living, one of the few original cast members who is still here, and he makes his home in Kanagawa, Kawasaki City. He's 86 years old.
Wow.
And he truly is one of the veterans of this
And his
genre.
character's such a... Oh, he's so awful.
He's such a scumbag.
He
here.
really is. He's the epitome of the German phrase "Backpfeifengeist." You want to slap him. He's so awful.
The other guy's even worse because he's putting up the money behind this guy.
Yeah, but he's just so obnoxious. He's obnoxious because he pretends to be all genial and stuff like that, but he's really not. He's like really greedy and just awful. I liked this is
a fun movie.
This is one, you know, it's funny because, you know, I mentioned before being a Godzilla fan and being a horror movie fan. I go into it a lot on Kaiju Corner if you want to take a listen to that.
$5 a month gets you Kaiju Corner and 2 other exclusive podcasts on Patreon.
It gives you a little info into my background and stuff like that and why these films interested me. Mm-hmm. I remember watching a lot of these films as a little girl on WLVI Channel 56 Creature Double Feature, which was a double monster movie thing that they did every Saturday morning. At a point in my life when I probably shouldn't have been watching movies like this, but my parents figured, you know, she's not setting stuff on fire, just let her alone. It's the 70s, you know. And I remember seeing this movie when I was a very small child, and it scared the living piss out of me.
Well, yeah.
Godzilla didn't scare me.
No,
Godzilla didn't scare me at all.
Mm-hmm.
It was the scene where he's being cocooned alive by the caterpillars. Larva. I had that summer when we had gypsy moths in our backyard. Every time I saw one, I ran off screaming. I just
because, Kim, what's wrong with you?
Well, the thing is, we would have these. For those of you who don't know,
gypsy moths get really thick up here sometimes.
Gypsy moths are a pain in the ass. And where we lived was our backyard. There was a line of trees between our yard and the neighbor's yard. And in the summer, you'd get gypsy moths, and these things would spin cocoons that would stretch all over the trees, and they damaged the trees. I mean, I remember one time my dad cutting down the branches and burning them with the caterpillars and all that on,
That's the only way you can get rid of them.
And me just kind of standing there being like, I want to look away, but I can't. You know, It was like, but it was really weird because I remember, and it's funny because now that I watch this movie now, I'm like, why was I afraid of this scene? I think it was just the simple fact that I have this thing about stuff covering.
You're claustrophobic.
I get claustrophobic. Yeah, I do.
And that would set me off.
I mean, when you see Godzilla flailing and most of his upper body is covered with this white, you know, clingy stuff, and it's clinging to his face, and it's like, I'm like, ah!
Well, it's just like one of the other movies Mr. Sahara here is known for was Matango.
Oh, boy.
And that also scared the hell out of you as a kid. Yeah.
That movie scarred me for years. And the thing is, it's a really good movie.
Yeah, we finally saw it together in 2008.
And this is a really good movie. Yeah. Yep. I love Mothra vs. Godzilla. It's great. I know a lot of people's whole thing, people who are, you know, serious G fans, the whole thing with the cosmos and all that stuff like that, some people do find that a little bit too twee and just a little too precious. Mm-hmm. I like it. I think it's got this really different kind of unique vibe to it. Mm-hmm. And Godzilla in this film is definitely, he's the antagonist. He is just being aggressive. But he's an animal, and he doesn't know any better, and it is what it is. But he's definitely, in a lot of these earlier films, Godzilla is, if not the aggressor, he's definitely not on humanity's side. That would change with the films coming up because people had finally noticed that there was a very specific select group of people that were looking at Godzilla movies and specifically looking at Godzilla as the hero.
Kids.
Yeah. Kids were cuckoo about Godzilla. As in, like, that he was someone that they liked to watch.
Godzilla is a friend of children everywhere. That doesn't have the same ring.
That's Gamera and quit it. So now because the studios finally noticed, oh wait, they actually like him. Well, guess we're going to make him a hero now, and we have to run it down people's throats. And that would start happening with the next films.
Yeah, tomorrow's film on our Big G countdown this month is the first film to introduce the unholy alliance of the other monsters, because this was just a few months later. It hit theaters and reteamed once again Godzilla and Mothra, joined by Rodan and introducing Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. This is the film that is basically the blueprint for the upcoming Godzilla King of the Monsters. And it is really interesting to see. I don't think I've seen this one all the way through. So we'll have to sit and watch it sometime.
I know
maybe not right now.
I know they've run it on Svengoolie, but
oh, maybe I have then. I don't know. I've seen all of them
because we saw them on. I know we saw it on Svengoolie because Sven had the plushie Ghidorah that I still want.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, well, I have seen it then.
That I still want. My birthday's coming up in November.
It's April. Well, no, it's May. Sorry, I'm skipping months all of a sudden.
Shop early, shop often.
Tomorrow on the Big G Tokyo Town StompDown, it is Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. Don't forget to check us out. If you know a G fan, let them know we're out here. Retweet, Facebook, everything about the show and our mini-series.
And let us know what your favorite Godzilla movie is. I mean, do you have a favorite? Do you love them all equally? I can't see that happening.
You can leave a comment on Facebook, let us know on Twitter, or write to us at subjectcinema at eCinemaOne, at PNRNetworks.com. And don't forget that you can get Kaiju Corner, for our new film show, Film Flash, and Freeze Frame. Oh, they're all Fs. Interesting.
Yeah.
For $5 a month on Patreon. Become a Patreon patron. Get those extra 3 shows and a lot of other cool perks. So check us out at patreon.com/PNRNetworks.
Yeah.
Until then,
I'm Kim Brown.
I'm TC Kirkham.
And we'll be back tomorrow.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Big G Tokyo Town StompDown from Subject Cinema, Kaiju Corner at eCinemaOne.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PNR.